Anthony, you say I'm left, but I'm not far left, right? There's certain things you don't agree with everything on the left. So here's a question for you. They send me these pictures that 10-year-old kids can now learn in school. Here's a sex book. If you go a little lower, teaching boys how to give boys a blowjob. If you go a little lower, right there, you know, how to give another boy a blowjob, keep going lower. Do you think it's appropriate for 10-year-old kids to have to read material like this in schools?
I don't know anything about this book.
What can I say about this? Is absolutely outrageous. Just the fact that this book exists and is in a single school district in America just blows my mind. And Anthony Weiner, I have a feeling I know what he's going to say, but we'll see soon enough. This is just ridiculous. How can literally anybody, regardless of how you feel about LGBTQ and all that stuff, whether you think children, young children for that matter, should be taught about homosexuality or transgenderism or these things, regardless of what you think about those, what your stance is on those, do you really think that, first of all, school is the place to teach kids about this? And secondly, should children of that age be taught about this? And in my view, the answer is absolutely not in both cases. That does not mean that you hate gays or you hate transgenders or all this, but there is a standard you have to maintain in a society. For a functioning society to work, you have to maintain a certain standard, and you have to have a certain basic conception of what makes a strong society. And Western society is built on the family unit and communities of families. That's just the way it is. You're not going to change that, no matter how progressive you think you are, no matter how much the culture changes. If you want a healthy society that remains healthy and strong and is able to build a long-lasting, healthy, and powerful civilization, then you cannot change the basic parameters. You can't change the rules of the game, the ground rules, so to speak, of society. Imagine the founding fathers listening to people debate about this stuff. Just imagine. They'd burn it all down and start over.
Just logic. I mean, you know, let's just say they were doing this.
If I'm going to assume all of these facts and evidence,
let's say they are.
If I'm no, I would not be crazy about my son reading any of that because he's that age.
Well,
yeah, okay, that's a start. Good, kudos to you, Anthony.
Listen, I appreciate you for being straight up with that, because that's exactly what's going on in the state of California. So, and Newsom came out with a video, and he said, I can't even send you the clip on the video. It's like, we are not going to let them ban these books, and they're doing what happened in these different things.
So let's take a step.
Yeah, so this is another thing I hear all the time. And I see it in European media too. Oh, in America, they're banning books. No, they're not banning any books in America. You can buy any book you want on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or in the bookstore or whatever. But yes, there are certain books which are not appropriate in certain locations, such as schools. The books in school libraries and the textbooks assigned to children should be heavily vetted. They should be about teaching what schools have a purview to teach. They should not be indoctrinating children with the latest progressive nonsense and madness that is taking over our society. I mean, let me know if you think I'm going too far, if I'm just being a total reactionary, which I am in this case. Yeah, we should be reacting to this. Absolutely. But let me know in the comments what you think.
Step back here. Let's take a step back. We're a big country, a lot of teachers, a lot of school districts. We in this country, in our form of government, we ostentatiously keep education decisions close to home. That the education budget is like 4% in the federal government. The budget is tiny because the things that these determinations we're going to make about schools, we understand as a society we want them made closer to home because they should reflect the values of their community. Not every community and every book and every school board and every library is going to do it exactly the way you and I would. But the $64,000 question, or the 30,000-foot, whatever metaphor you want to use, is we can use these things to try to like poke at this idea that the world's on fire and everything is destroyed and everything's wrong, or we can say, listen, that classroom has a group of parents that can go to the principal and go to a school board. The last thing I want is someone like Ron DeSantis saying that I am going to decide. Or in Tallahassee, that's what the capital is of the state?
Yes.
Or in Tallahassee, we are going to decide what books parents or kids or teachers are going to teach. I don't believe politicians are that smart. I don't believe their values are so much better than the parents in my district are. And I think that the hardest thing for a politician to do is say, you know what? I'm not the best person to make this decision. The best person to make this decision, these people, and you know what? People are going to make mistakes. They're going to get things wrong. Do I want my son reading that book? No, but I don't know what we get at when we're trying to like, we're trying to make this suggestion that we're going to try that you're talking about a state that is 3,000 miles away, and you're trying to.
Well, to be fair, he's making a good point. Yes, the local community should decide on what they find appropriate or inappropriate to be in their schools. What should be taught in their schools and what shouldn't be taught, and what kind of books they should. He's absolutely right about that. That, in fact, is like a founding principle of the United States of America, although today, by now, we are so far from the founding principles. But the idea behind the United States of America, of course, is that each state is a state. And this is in like the technical sense of the term. It is a self-governing unit. And the United States together, the federal government, originally had very, very, very limited powers, right? So I think its powers were simply that of national defense, the power to levy duties, excise taxes, customs duties. Correct me if I'm wrong, but very limited powers. And yes, and all other powers were devolved to the state level. And then, he's right. You don't even want the state government telling every school district in a state what to do. No, he's right about that. I don't want them doing that. I want every school district to decide based on what the parents in that community want. But of course, he's being a bit disingenuous because there is a federal Department of Education, and the federal Department of Education hands out money, but it also gives that money, conditions are attached to that money. Now, I don't know what role the federal government plays in promoting transgenderism and LGBTQ ideology in the classroom. That I don't know. But certainly at state level, the government plays a role. And the parents shouldn't even they should not be faced with any sort of problem in pushback. If some of these books get into your local school, the parents should immediately stand up, confront the school board, and say, no, we don't want this. Get it out. And, the school board should say, oh, okay, sorry, our mistake. This is what the state government was recommending, but if you don't want it, then we don't want it either. That's how it should go, really. But of course, I don't even think it should get to that. Like, who on earth? I think the whole country just should have a basic moral standard. But of course, it doesn't. The whole country obviously doesn't. Things have changed dramatically since the country was founded.
To draw some conclusion about some horrible book.
It's not in one school. It's in a state.
Anthony, you're very well spoken, and you're very sharp on a lot of things.
Thank you.
And no, you are.
I appreciate it.
You've spent a good part of your adult life in debate. You're very, very, very good at it. But what you just said, I don't even think you believe. Parents don't really have the ability. You look all over the United States. You have parents trying to go to school boards so they could do this local, as you brought up. They don't have the ability to do that. They have the ability to appear, but they're not being heard. The argument is being truncated.
The statement. What's the evidence, my friend?
The evidence? How many school board meetings do you want to pick where parents come up and say, I don't want my kids to read this book. I don't want my kids to see this.
You're going to have parents showing up, and other parents are going to say different things. This is an imperfect thing. You get your say in this country. You don't get your way. And we certainly shouldn't have a say on California books happening about 3,000 miles away. And why are we animated around these things? Because we're animated around the idea that media relies on conflict. For those of you listening, I'm banging my fists together. Conflict. We love it. So we show something like this and get people all upset and, oh my God, the world is ending.
that some parents are animated about the concept of age-appropriate education.
Age-appropriate education, of course. And frankly, if enough parents, even if it's a minority of parents, are outraged by these books, then they just should be pulled. Why would you want to insult a minority of parents just to push your ideology on them? No. If you're so keen on that as a parent, you're so keen that this stuff should be taught, teach it at home. No one's going to come into your house and take the book away from you at home. You can order the book online. It's not banned, despite all these cries about book bannings. There are no banned books in America. That's complete nonsense. There are books which are not at schools. There are books which are not in libraries. There are books. That's just the way it is. Of course, you have to curate these things. To say that they're banned is completely ridiculous, and infuriates me when big authors also talk about, oh, books are being banned in America. No, they're not, you idiots. So he just made a good point. Age appropriate, yes. But this stuff, no, just take it out. If it was up to me, I would just say, forget sex education. This should be up to the parents. Parents come from all different kinds of backgrounds, all different kinds of values. And if you want to teach this to your kids, well, that's your right. No one's going to stop you, but they should teach it at home. Frankly, that's how I would do it. I would get school really back to basics. There are big problems in a lot of schools, and trying to crowbar this kind of stuff in on top of all the other problems many schools face is just a recipe for disaster.
Everyone is. No parent is standing up saying, I'm standing up in favor of inappropriate. Look, teaching.
Of course they are.
Teaching.
Of course they
I
are.
know,
Yes,
because
they
it's
are.
necessary for this argument for you to take that
No,
position.
you want me to play clips? Okay, let's go to the greatest hits.
My mom was a school teacher.
You brought this to yourself. Go
Your
ahead.
my mom was a school teacher for 30-something years.
Yeah.
I can tell you how, and I have been to so many school board meetings. This is what I used to do. I would go out, I'd come back from Washington or on the city council, and I'd go to community meetings. People fight about stuff. These are not easy issues. They're not.
They're very simple issues. Just take it all out, and the parents can teach that stuff at home. Very simple and that way everybody's happy. The parents can teach certain things the way they want. The schools can focus on education, the necessary things, like when I was at school, God forbid, all those years ago in the 70s and 80s, we learned math, we learned social studies, as we called it, English, foreign languages, whatever foreign languages you were learning, and depending what age you were, math, reading, all that stuff. And of course, the different kinds of sciences as you get older. All that stuff, music, depends on the school. But we didn't need to have all sorts of social and cultural things taught to us. Most of that should just be left up to the parents. We had a little bit of sex ed. I remember that very, very little, probably as part of our biology class. I can't remember now, or health class, depending what age you were. So anyway, very simple. If parents are complaining about it, just take it out. Teach that at home. Schools have become massive. Not only are they just massive babysitting centers, they're indoctrination centers in a lot of places. And yeah, of course, everything you're teaching to the kids is a type of indoctrination, but you might as well teach them just useful skills, the stuff they need to get on in life, how to be numerate, how to read, how to express themselves. Leave all the culture vulture stuff, the culture war stuff to the parents. And don't try to push it on everybody else's kids.
If I were a parent and my school was doing that, I'd go to a school board meeting, I'd be pissed off at that, and I think I'd probably win that case and say we shouldn't be teaching this. But
you are a parent.
I am
not
a
if you're a parent.
No, but
you
I'm
are
not a parent. You show me some excerpt that discusses
Whether it's
excerpt from the book.
California, New York,
This
Florida,
is not a California excerpt.
Anthony.
That's where you and I
Anthony,
disagree.
this is not just a
what do you mean?
California
That's
excerpt.
where you and I
If your
disagree.
11-year-old son was exposed to this, or a grown adult, a grown man was texting your 11-year-old son, what would you do about it?
That's not the question we're suggesting.
Of course, it's all
You're
in that-
taking an excerpt from a California book that we
Well,
all
what would
find
you do if
disgusting.
you found someone texting your son?
Wait a minute. Well, let's stick with the books for a second. I just told you what I would do if that book appeared in my son's teaching.
What would you
told
do?
you what I would do. I would go to the school board, I'd go to the administrator, I'd rally to other parents to go do it. Because that's the way we make decisions at that level about these things. We don't do it on podcasts from thousands of miles away who are profiting from not this one in particular, who are profiting from conflict. Fox News all day is around.
Well, yeah, the podcasts are doing a good thing, actually, because they're bringing it to parents' attention. A lot of parents don't even know this stuff is going on in their own schools. And it's good that they know maybe it's not going on in their schools. Well, if they see it's going on in schools in other school districts or in other states, they can be on the lookout for it. They can keep an eye out for the early signs of this creeping indoctrination by all sorts of all sorts of ideologies that they would be totally against. I would be aghast. I would be outraged if my daughter came home with a book like this. Absolutely outraged. And yeah, I mean, and kudos to Anthony. He's said he would be against it too. So fair enough. By the way, if you like this kind of content, please subscribe, notification bell, hit the like button. It all helps. And I want to keep doing this kind of stuff if you find it useful and helpful.
Finding these foibles, accelerating into giant things in our country, talking about woke this and woke that, and every poll shows we're more divided than we've ever been. All I'm saying is that we make these decisions in an imperfect way, and I'm not saying we always get it right.
Hang on. You were poking at Pat for changing the subject. You just went to media using conflict to make ad revenue, and that's your business model. Okay, you're correct about that, but let's go back here. Sure. This is not a 3,000-mile away issue. There are school boards all across all 50 states. Pick one where parents are bringing this up, but they're being told no, and they're being pushed back. This book is going to be there.
You've stated that before, and I said, bring me some evidence of that. I've seen more in the other direction.
Bring me some evidence.
I've seen
no. And then you say, well, I didn't see that.
I've seen thousands of books that have been banned and removed from shelves. And
yeah, here we go. Here's the book banning thing. Yeah, and they should have been removed. Yeah, of course books are banned, so to speak, in school libraries. Of course, there are loads. There are millions, literally millions of books which are banned from school libraries because they don't belong there. School libraries should have a limited budget. They have a limited space, and the books should be age appropriate, and they should be appropriate to what students need to be reading and learning at school. So let me know what you think about this. I think this is absolutely nonsense. Beyond nonsense, actually. I'm pretty disgusted by this, that the situation has got to such a point where publishers are publishing these books, school boards are ordering them, they're putting them into schools, and then the parents have to, after the fact, they have to come and complain about it. It's always after the fact. So, this is a problem with people who are, of a conservative or more traditional people. They should already be on the school boards and just stopping this sort of thing from happening in the first place. So instead of letting the progressives and the liberals and these people with horrible progressive ideologies take over your local school boards, you need traditional people. It's really at local level that this kind of thing can make a difference. And especially in the United States, I mean, the system is set up for that. He does make a good point. So anyway, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.